any of that in the last podcast we did with you. And that was a lot of questions that I had sitting for a year on a document that I have for guests of like,
shit, when Drake got in the mix too and getting everybody back in, I mean, it was going to just go down a wormhole of whatever the hell we want to, like, just whatever the hell happens.
It's always a wormhole with him. So 50 minutes into the podcast, we're going to finally talk about a little bit of Iowa football. What are David Eickholt's biggest questions for the Iowa Hawkeye football team going into the 2022 season? Give me 1, 2, or 3 biggest questions. What is fans? What is a consumer of Iowa football? What are we wondering about this team?
Tyler, I mean, you already know where I'm going first thing.
Okay.
It has to be quarterback play. And
sure.
I know it's such a tired talking point and a minute talking point.
But it's the talking point.
It's the talking point. It has to happen because, look, Tyler Linderbaum's gone.
Mm-hmm.
The offensive line is going to be better.
Yeah.
Center is going to be the big question mark, but I expect a big step forward. Now, by the way, George Barnett absolutely crushed it on the recruiting trail.
Oh my God, murdering.
The offensive line class for Iowa is ridiculous. Last year's is ridiculous. I told you this last year. David Eickholt, you might not break it this year. He's going to be a freak.
Animal.
Very high on him.
What about Myslinski?
Myslinski had to recover from a knee injury.
So he got hurt.
So I expect Logan Jones to be the center this season.
And they did the same thing with him as they did with Lindy. They moved him from the D line.
Correct. I almost feel bad for Logan because there's going to be unrealistic expectations on him. Fair.
Oh, of course.
I mean, it's just the way it is. But I mean, where I'm going with that is, look, I think Luke Lachey can take a huge step forward. I've always been very high on Luke Lachey. Yes. People need not forget about Steven Stylianos, the Lafayette tight end transfer. 6'5", 265 pounds. This dude is a mauler of a run blocker.
Jesus.
There could be 3 tight end sets. And with Charlie Jones's departure, which
hurts, that's a stake in my heart, man.
Well, I told this to my VIP board, and I think it's become public knowledge. Nobody knew he was going. He surprised 90. I'm sure you've heard some rumblings, but the coaching staff had no idea.
I'm going to get him on the podcast after this season, and it's going to be a banger episode.
I think that'd be a very smart marketing move for you.
Yeah.
And I like Charlie. He's always been cool to me. Like, and at the end of the day, Iowa fans wait to hear. I get why he transferred. I really do. Now,
I do too.
The way it ended up going down, I think, is what pissed a lot of Iowa people off, and where he went.
I was going to say, going to Purdue doesn't make it any better either.
That's the thing. And I think the timing of it. If you don't done before spring ball, I think it's a different conversation still.
Yep.
But what I've always said, I'll get back on track in a second, but the way I've always justified Charlie leaving is, remember, the number 1 receiver for Purdue is academically ineligible this year. So it became a receiver opening for him, and Aiden O'Connell were really good friends. And he wasn't academically ineligible till April after spring ball. So what happens in May? Jones is dipping. So anyway, Spencer I've always said, people are too hard on Spencer Petras' arm talent because I think he has a very talented arm.
Absolutely.
Obviously, we saw the 70-yard sling he had. The thing for Spencer, one, he has to be protected. I mean, the O-line was just not good last year. So I think there needs to be some sort of, middle ground for that.
Absolutely.
But when Spencer Petras gets away from his mechanics, it's bad.
Yeah.
If he is able to hit his mechanics, he will hit receivers way more than not.
And John Miller talked about that a lot on Twitter last year, when he sets his feet, when his shoulders are in motion, when he's got his elbow in the right position, the kid can sling it.
Yes.
He can sling it. And when he was protected last year, a lot of the times he did. But I think that's the most overlooked thing from last year is, man, the guy was just worried he was going to get killed on nobody knows what it's like to stand back there and and worry about potentially being absolutely crushed every time you catch a snap. And
I think of Nate Stanley against Michigan in that 10-3 loss.
Yeah. Yep.
He was sacked 8 times. Goodson was the only source of offense. And look, Stanley wasn't good in that game, but my God, that guy, he was a warrior that game for how many hits as he took.
Or Beathard in the Stanford game. We couldn't do anything.
Exactly. Yep.
I mean, it's the same thing. We couldn't do anything offensively because Beathard had no time.
I think Iowa's got Sam Laporta, who I think could be a top 2-round tight end.
Yep.
I don't know if he's a first round yet. I think he lacks top end speed still.
I was going to say he doesn't have the athleticism of Fant and Hawkinson or Kittle.
And he's got to be able to catch over the middle. He had too many just drops last year, as good as receiver as he was. So catching in traffic and top end speed, but everything else, I mean, I think he's a pro tight end day one upon his return. Keegan Johnson, I think, is going to be, I mean, I've said this about Emir Smith-Marset, but there are other circumstances behind that. I think Keegan Johnson is potentially Iowa's first all Big Ten receiver since 2011. Marvin McNutt was. I think Keegan Johnson's a pro receiver in the future. I think he's got that kind of upside. I think the big thing for him, I think he's a good X receiver, but I think if they move him to a Z and then they move Arland potentially in the slot or just move him around, I think that's his best spot. And then you throw Brody Brecht and develop him and throw him at the X. I think that's where you're going to get the most dynamic out of it. I think Deontay Vines will be another guy to watch. I think I've loved his athleticism and short area quickness. And the big question mark, which could be the key for the offense, can Nico Organy have a big final year? Yeah.
I agree. And then you talk about that and you're like, well, shit, Keegan Johnson, Arlen Bruce. It's like, where was Tracy and Jones going to fit in? Right. And so that helps pad the loss of those two a little more. This is not personal to Tyrone Tracy, seemed like a fantastic dude.
Yeah.
I don't think Iowa misses him at all. Jones
misses locker room presence a lot.
Maybe locker room presence, but as far as on-field production, I think, another year, someone's going to step up. There's always going to be a locker room presence guy. It's probably Nico. And I'll go out and say Keegan's probably taken a slight leadership role as well, because when you play early and you get big time reps as a freshman, you just ascend in that role quicker than most people do. God damn it. We missed Charlie Jones in the return game. Oh my goodness. That hurt me so bad. I'm a special teams guy. You know that. Everybody knows that. That hurt so bad. I'm still sad.
The thing is, I think Iowa has as much athleticism as they've had on their team in a long time.
Way more than,
especially skill position wise.
Yep.
I think tight end, obviously Hawkinson and Fan are outliers.
Yep.
And that's no disrespect to Luke Lachey, because Luke Lachey is a freak athlete, by the way.
I don't think there's a chance that what Iowa did with Hawk and Fant in the same draft, playing in the same year and a half span, both of them on the field, it may never happen again that a team has the two tight ends that are that talented at the same time.
Yeah.
In the history of football.
I think you look at Caden Weechin from Iowa Western. He really impressed me in the spring game, and there's talk about him potentially being the return game. They called him another version of Charlie Jones, which is incredibly high praise.
Yeah.
But I will say this as well. He throws Xavier Wampa back there.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Arlen Bruce back there. Riley Moss is trying to make a case to be a returner. And we saw what happened. Desmond King, I thought, was a really solid returner as well. Now he had a couple too many fair catches in bad situations, a time or two. Sure. But Iowa has athleticism and guys that can step up in the return game. And yes, it's impossible to expect guys to, be the Big Ten returner of the year again. But I mean, I think they got the pieces to be able to do it. And then you still have Terry Roberts as a gunner, and you have Tory Taylor at punter. And my second big concern, if you talk about question mark, kicking. Iowa fans have been so spoiled by outstanding kickers going back years. Mm-hmm. This is the first year where you're kind of looking and saying there's so many question marks. Now, I think Iowa's done a good job. I've heard Drew Stevens is continuing to improve. I think he could be the guy. But the ballot could go into the season. I mean, they may try out two or three different kickers in the first.
Yeah, I was going to say we're bringing it back to my senior season, 2017, basically, where it was a battle between Miguel and Keith in camp. And Miguel had the camp of his life. It was the year before that. Oh my God, I forget. I think Keith came in 16, and Miguel
Keith hit the game winner against Michigan.
Yep. And Miguel just kind of had a bad camp, crapped his pants, and is like, all right, well, we're going with Keith, I guess, this year. And then Miguel came back and Keith sat for the year because Miguel just balled out in the off season and in camp and all the way through and really took the job, which is hard to do in special teams. I think we're looking at a similar scenario as to about 5 or 6 years ago, where what's his name? Aaron Blom.
Yeah, Aaron Blom, you have Lucas Amaya, and you got Drew Stevens, I believe.
Yeah, I would say Blom and Stevens are your guys to look at, and I really don't know. And I have the inside scoop, and I really don't know.
Yeah. So I think there's some concern there. I mean, in special teams is set. I mean, Iowa special teams, and I know people are going to hate me saying this, but I said this before, Tyler. If you put Iowa special teams on Nebraska last year, Nebraska might have flipped the record because Nebraska has the worst special teams I have ever seen at any level of football.
They were so bad last year.
They were awful.
It was bad.
Awful. I mean, I'll even go back to this. I mean, that was the Nebraska mindset late in the year when the quote that stuck out to me, and I thought was going to be the final nail in Frost's coffin. I did not think Frost was going to be back this year. I really didn't. When Iowa blocked the punt, and I believe Kyler Fisher returned it in for the touchdown, Scott Frost basically said after the game, he knew the game was over.
Yeah, I remember that.
Still up 5 points.
Yeah.
And you said, in a way, I had some people comment, well, the players didn't know that. I'm like, the players aren't stupid. They read the coach's body language on the sideline. They've been the way they were throughout the season. They knew the game was lost. And
it's not just them too. Like you can see it in the coaches, but the players also sort of they adopt. It's really where the momentum comes from in sports is body language turns into thoughts turn into body language turns into a vibe. There is an unquantifiable level of vibe that you can feel. And when the fans are all sunk and the players are all like, oh shit, we just let that happen. And the coaches are like, oh shit, people start to feel that and everybody tightens up. And then when you play tight, you lose football games.
Tyler, what happened in the Big Ten championship game? When did you realize that the game was probably not going to go in Iowa's favor? Because I have an exact moment
when we overthrew Monty.
Yep. I said that. And when they missed and Shudak missed the field
goal. And when Shudy missed the field goal. And
Shudy missed the field goal, I knew the game was over.
I did too.
And I think a lot of Iowa fans did too. Now I know what the final score is going to be.
Because he was money. And I know everybody on that all season. And I know personally from teammates who said it to my face, you guys matter so much with the team's like up and down spirit.
Yep.
Like if you guys, because they see us at every range in practice, 20 yards, 30 yards, 40 yards, 50 yards. If we go out and we hit a long field goal that they know is, hey, mate, this is maybe a make or a miss, who knows? The spirit and the rally sense of like, okay, let's go. Like even the specialists are going out there and balling. That's like momentum for the team. You go out there and you miss a 34-yarder and the team knows that you're supposed to hit that 99 out of 100 times and you're in the Big Ten championship where you know you basically have to play perfect anyway. Everyone's like, fuck.
Exactly.
That's how this one's going to go.
Exactly. And again, kicking's a big question mark. And another question.
Yeah, give me a third one. Quarterback, kicking, give me a third question mark.
I'm going to go a little bit off the board. I think the cash position, because I think Dane Belton really made that defense go last year. Jack Campbell I don't care what anybody says. Jack Campbell is a first-round linebacker. 100%. I will fight every NFL analyst on that. I don't care about his ankle bend. I don't give a shit about any of that. Sideline to sideline speed. The dude knows how to tackle, rarely misses. And I'll tell you, he is as mentally sharp of a linebacker as I've ever seen in an Iowa uniform.
I was going to say he was like,
he is the epitome of a leader. Like the fact that he's going to Big Ten Media Days does not shock me whatsoever. I think it would have been a mistake if he didn't go.
If you could build a linebacker, right?
Jack Campbell.
It's Jack Campbell. And before this, if you could build a linebacker, it was Chad Greenway.
I agree.
And I think Jack Campbell is the closest total embodiment of the position of what he can do to Chad Greenway that we've had. And I know, and I slept with Josie Jewell in the same house, basically. Yep. Not sexually. Don't take that the wrong way. Maybe sexually. Who knows? And Jack Campbell is I'm so excited to watch him play this year. But I would agree, the cash position, like are they going to throw Wampa in? You know, like
I don't know if he'll start.
Who else is even in the running?
Sebastian Castro, I think, could be in the mix.
Really?
And, another under the radar guy that I would look at, and I don't know if they're going to do it. I'd be surprised if they did, but an idea I've had, and it's a bit risky. I throw Kayvon Merriweather at cash.
I was just going to say, could we put Kayvon there?
And throw Wampa in the backfield. Kayvon is a very underrated player in Iowa's defense.
I agree.
He just as far as just the small things he does, he is a big time hitter, by the way. Like between him and Justin Jacobs, like I don't want to take a shot from him.
All body team.
And by the way, Justin Jacobs could be a top 2 round linebacker too.
Yep.
With his athleticism, if he can improve his coverage, I think he's a top 2 linebacker.
If he improves his pass, what he can do in the pass defense, teams are going to drool over him because he is an NFL body to a T.
And just to go back to your thing about Chad Greenway, and that's no disrespect to Josie Jewell, obviously. Right. He was a hell of a player for Iowa. And, another guy I would think of before that, I'll go back in time. I think Fred Barr before that, probably. 376 career tackles. I thought he was an outstanding backer for Iowa as well. But I think Campbell can join that elite list. And, I know some people might kind of scoff at that just because, then obviously his last season numbers were insane. But, who do we consider to be the best Iowa tight end of all time still, despite only having 1 or 2 seasons of outstanding production?
Dallas Clark.
Yeah, Dallas Clark, right? So I don't know. Where I'm going with that is this. I think Jack Campbell, I think the linebackers at Iowa has nothing to worry about. I think Seth Benson I hate using this term, but he's a high floor guy. He's not going to let you down. He's just not going to let you down.
That's such a great description. A high floor guy. I love that.
He's a high floor guy. Iowa's secondary, despite losing Kerner, Belton, and Hankins, I think they could be even better.
I know, it's so stupid. It's unbelievable.
It's actually ridiculous. We'll see what happens to Jamari Harris, because remember, he's not going to play in the opener because he's suspended the first game.
Yep.
And, are they going to start Jamari over Terry? Because Scary Terry, I'm taking credit for the Scary Terry nickname, by the way.
What?
I swear that was me. I swear I was the first one to say that. I'm going to go back through Twitter. I'm gonna search Scary Terry Iowa because
we may have both started it independently without knowing it, because I know for a fact that Drake or I said Scary Terry on a podcast, like unprompted. It's an easy go-to. It's not hard to come up with that, but
we'll trademark it between the Washed Up Swarmcast.
I love it.
But no, so I think there's several guys that can step up in the secondary. But again, the defensive line, I thought about saying who's going to step up in Van Valkenburg's place or who could be that high sack caliber guy. Because you think about the last few years for Iowa defensive linemen, there's always been one standout, right?
True.
One guy puts up freak athletic numbers. Lucas Van Ness is a dog, man.
Oh, dude's going to crush people.
Iowa made such a great call with him and to get him, because remember, he had 30 plus offers, but Iowa was one of his first high major offers. He was getting offers from Ivy Leagues. 24/7 Sports really boosted him, I think, more than any other recruiting service. I think Sean saw him live. The weight he's put on, the muscle, he is built like a guy that could throw up 14 sacks. Like, he is literally hurt. He's the strongest pound for pound guy I've seen probably since I started covering Iowa. The only two I would say that probably are close would be Brandon Smith, wide receiver, because he was built like Achilles, right?
Oh my God.
He was a freak.
Unbelievable.
And then I feel so bad. I'm blanking on name.
Describe it.
A freak athlete, weight room monster, linebacker, special teams guru, started a game a couple of years ago, then got benched.
Aaron Menz? Oh, no, Amani Jones.
Amani Jones. That's exactly what I'm thinking of. He's probably the other pound for pound strongest guy I've seen at Iowa.
That boy. Oof, yeah, he was strong. So Van Ness, I want to just take a quick second because I creep the hell out of him on Instagram. He is, first of all, the most beautiful man I've ever seen in my life. And I'm going to get real sexually questionable here. His whole family is built out of, they've been carved of stone. They are like, if the best artists in the world were to paint like a perfect family, they are the most genetically gifted people I've ever seen. His whole family, his mom, his dad, I think he has 2 sisters or a brother and him. They're all beautiful. The man is, it's unbelievable. He got all of it.
With everyone else, all due respect to Van Ness, Lucas too, and I mean this in lighthearted spirit, he'd be, if he were cast in any movie ever, I feel like he'd be like the bully jock in a Disney movie.
Yeah. But then the love interest, he eventually comes around. He has a great relationship with like the lead female role and they fall in love. Dude, he could be a movie star. He could be a movie star. His whole family could be in a movie. So that was weird. Just me. But I just wanted to point that out because I did.
He's an NFLer too. He's gonna be
and he's going to be in the league, right? He just has it all. It's so unfair. I love
Dude
that.
been some major work though, because remember he was. I mean, I use the term small loosely when he got to Iowa. He was like 6'5", like 220, 225.
Yeah, it must suck to be 6'5".
Yeah. But well, I mean, I'm 6'4", 173. So like,
I mean, I've worked my hardest to get just stacked, and I know that guy on Twitter said I'll never be as good as you, which is right. I'm never going to be
the peak. Yeah, I'm definitely the peak. I have the peak physique of what every man strives for.
Correct.
Other than that, like, completely fine.
I love the question marks there. I agree wholeheartedly. I love the cash mix up in there. My last question before I let you go is back to the recruiting, back to the quarterback position. Kid's name is Carson Carson May. Yeah, and then Carson we've got this kid,
Marco Lainez.
Lainez. Okay. What are we working with? Because I tweeted out yesterday, I've seen videos of Lainez, and I saw videos of Petras. I saw videos of Labas. I saw videos of Padilla all before they came to Iowa. It looks great when you're not thrown against a defense and you're not wearing pads and all this stuff. But something about Lainez is just telling me like, oh shit, if there was ever going to be, I know this is the comparison. It doesn't happen for anybody, but this is the way that you describe it just to get the effect. Like if someone could come in and be our Johnny Manziel and just make shit happen, right? I feel like this Lainez kid could be it. What are we looking at with Carson and Marco and these two kids coming in? And where does Labas fit in all this?
I mean, obviously Labas, I think I think he could challenge for the next starting gig. I'm very high on him, but Alex Padilla is not going to go down without a fight. And I've always said this about Alex Padilla. I love Alex Padilla's willingness to throw the ball downfield. He likes to take risks. And I think Iowa's offense at times needs to take more risks. When you have talent receiver, now.
True.
Carson May is an interesting case. I think, some people label him as a chance. I don't think he was a quote unquote guy who took a flyer on. 6'4", 6'5", 230 pounds, big stat kid. His willingness to run, he can escape the pocket, made a lot of stuff happen in high school. But I think the big thing for me is it's 2A Oklahoma high school football. What's the transition to Big Ten going to be like?
Okay.
Can he keep up with the speed of the game? I think he has a lot of arm talent. I think he has a decent upside. I think he's a smart quarterback. And I'm not dismissing him from the battle by any means, because he could turn out to be a very, very good football player. And I'm not saying he won't. I'm not saying he's never going to start. I'm not saying any of that. And I hate hyping up kids too much.
Yeah.
I really like Marco Lainez. I'm a huge fan of what he brings to the table. And I'm going to clear this up here just because it drives me up a wall. Maybe I shouldn't comment on it, but I am. Iowa State did not get J.J. Cole over Iowa. Iowa got their commit in Lainez, and Iowa backed off Cole because they weren't taking two quarterbacks. Now, could Iowa State have gotten Cole over Iowa if Iowa continued to pursue and Iowa didn't have a quarterback? Sure, that could have happened. But Iowa backed off, and there was a mutual respect thing, right? Anyway, where I'm going with that, Lainez, his mindset.
I'm going to clip that and make you look like an asshole and tag everybody.
That's fine. That's fine. Trust me, I knew what I was doing. I was clickbaiting it for you. But at the same time, Lainez, I think he's 6'2.5", 6'3". He can run. I think he's a very decisive football player. I think he's very smart. He's been working out with Kenny Pickett, which is a very good player.
Oh, talk to me, David. Come on.
They have a good relationship. So I think Lainez is a high upside guy. And I'm tended to say this, but the player that Marco Lainez says he models his game after is Brad Banks. And that's football porn to Iowa fans' ears, I'm sure.
That is what we call a fully tented moment here on the podcast. You're getting everybody excited, and I'm clipping that. David, you heard it here first. David thinks that Marco Lainez is going to be a Heisman candidate.
Yep, for sure. I got you on the clickbait.
I love it.
But no, it'll be interesting. Like I said, I think Iowa's done a good job of recruiting quarterbacks. And something I did want to touch on very quick before we end this.
Yep.
Nobody has more pressure on this season than Brian Ferentz. I would argue in the country, because, and with all due respect to Kirk, and I mean, I'm like, for a coordinator, okay, let me rephrase that.
I was going to say Scott Frost is
Scott Frost should have been gone yesterday. But at the end of the day, Nebraska is not an attractive destination anymore. Like,
Yeah, no,
that's the
yeah.
reality. Who the hell wants to go coach Nebraska if Scott Frost gets fired?
I was going to say
Because
that's the question is you bring the hometown kid back
if they're bowl eligible, he's gone.
100%. And
there's no way you justify it.
If he's not gone, the farmers in Nebraska will bring their pitchforks, and they will.
Boosters will bring out their checkbooks and buy them out.
You're right.
Nebraska has the fan base to do it, whether people like it or not. They're fully ingrained. I have to respect the passion of the fan base.
Their fan base is incredible. They actually have one of the
best.
But
anyway, with Brian, and this is with all due respect to Brian, because I think Brian gets shit on way too much. I think he is a football genius. Now, does that translate over to production? No, but Brian knows so much football.
I wish people knew that, by the way.
It's like Brian is insanely intelligent.
Oh my God.
And I get it. His play calling ability is not where it needs to be, but from an X's and O's perspective, Brian Ferentz knows football. And I will, whatever happens with him in his coaching future, whatever, I don't know.
It might be on my gravestone.
Genius. Like he is so smart, and I've had the chance to talk to him, and he's been very cool to me and very open about the way he tries to philosophize things. And there's a couple like longer talks about him on YouTube, like 2 hours, where he's doing these coaching seminars. So if you're a football geek, I highly encourage you to go watch it because it's good stuff. But with Kirk moving Brian to quarterbacks, which I think is if you took the name Ferentz off Brian, it's a great move because it makes a lot of sense to have your offense coordinator and your quarterback coach be the same guy in modern day football. It just is. You look at some of the offense around the country. Iowa has to ball out week 1. There has to be immediate improvement with a third-year starting quarterback with guys in key roles. I think the running back position is fine. I'm very high on Gavin LaShawn. I think Caleb Johnson, by the way, oh my God.
Yes.
He is built like a Big Ten back, and I'm very intrigued to see how Iowa uses him because you need a third back. And that's with all due respect to Jazion Patterson.
I was just going to say, we've got the 2 kids coming in from Florida, back-to-back classes. One of them's the 4-star from the 23 class, right?
I believe, yes. Kendrick Ruffy. Yeah, he's going to be.
Sidebar, Liddell Betts is putting in work already.
Same with Abdul Hodge with his connections down south. And I've said this, if Iowa wants to make the championship pedigree, with all due respect to the Iowa high school talent, which by the way, I think has never been better. I think it's never
great.
Been better. And Iowa has, and the reason why Iowa State fans are, I think really upset is it's more talent than ever. But for the most part, Iowa gets the kids they want in state. They just do. Iowa has always put the priority on the in-state kids, and that's paying off now because these kids grew up seeing how much work Iowa does, putting in-state and where they transition from college to the NFL.
The best in Iowa go to Iowa.
I mean, it's no coincidence that 4 of the top 5 players in 2024 already committed to Iowa.
Let's go.
High 3-star, 4-star caliber guys. But if Iowa wants to reach the next level as a program, you got to get down Texas, you got to get Georgia, you got to get Florida.
Yep.
That's how you do it. And I've said this, the 40th best player in Florida is better than almost everybody in Iowa.
Yeah.
Outside of the top 2 or 3 kids. That's just the way it is. So getting those coaches down south with connections is a big deal. But Iowa has to have immediate improvement from a quarterback position. And Brian has so much pressure for immediate production, because if there isn't, just given the Iowa offensive rankings, I don't know how else you justify moving Brian to quarterbacks coach and giving him more duties.
Yep. I would have to agree. I mean, it's not as pertinent if somehow Petras isn't the guy come week 1, but if Petras is still the guy,
he's going to be the guy.
And I fully expect him to be. Boy, talk about someone who's sweating going into work on that first Saturday is Brian Ferentz. Woo!
I also think Brian doesn't give a shit about what anybody thinks. And I think
he doesn't.
I think for him, that's the best way he has to approach it.
Absolutely.
It's the best way to approach it. Because look, at the end of the day, armchair quarterbacks can say whatever they want. We have a different perspective than coaches do on the field. And again, Brian's a football genius. Now, could his play calling improve? Now, there's certain things where I have a hard time justifying why he's doing what he's doing. Absolutely. But I can guarantee, this is the way I try to approach it. I guarantee you, Brian has a plan with every call he tries to make. Everything. He's not just throwing shit. It's not Madden. He's not just throwing shit out there on a 3rd and 20. Okay. How many times have we seen Iowa go on a draw play, 3rd and 13? They end up picking up a first down or getting to 4th and 1. Guess what? Quarterback sneak. Boom. Iowa gets it.
In this situation, and I know that it'll come up during the season because people will be all over it, I think it's a good idea generally And people always hit me with, what are you just, we're just not allowed to criticize then? We're just not allowed. I'll go as far to say that if you are not qualified to the level that Brian is, or at least close, then no, you are not allowed to criticize. You can be analytical. You can break it down and say, man, it looks like that wasn't a great play call. It looks like we should have done something different there. It looks like he doesn't know what he's doing. But to say with conviction that you know that he shouldn't have done that, or that the 15-play drive he was trying to set up that may have gone to a possession before that where he was setting some up there, or he saw something from 3 weeks ago on film that he then saw 2 plays ago that he's trying. You have no idea. Even if we're down by 50, you still don't have the grounds to stand and criticize play calling. It's unbelievable.
So 2 things. One, that's why I said this earlier. I think Scott Dockerman does a tremendous job with the analytics and explaining things, especially in regards to Iowa's offense. And I believe he wrote a huge column that was a sit down with Brian Ferentz analyzing the offense.
Just came out, right?
I'd encourage everybody to go read that.
Yep, me too.
I think Scott did a hell of a job on that. But number 2, to go back to what we were talking about at the very start of this podcast, so long ago, was you talk about asking questions. The way fans want reporters to ask questions is exactly how you lose respect and trust of the coaches and players and sources. Why'd you do this? No, that's not our role. As a fan, you can be pissed and you can ask those rhetorically to your buddies at a bar, your son who doesn't know football, or anybody, your significant other doesn't give a shit. If you want to rant, that's completely fine. But do expect me, Tyler, and fans, I mean, realistically, I'll go on a rant. This is fun. Anyway, Tyler, you're Brian Ferentz. Why the hell didn't you throw the ball on 3rd and 7 in the goal line situation, coach? Yeah, okay. You really want me to act like that to Brian Ferentz? First of all, if people say you would ask that, with all due respect, you'd be shitting yourself if you were 3 feet away from Brian Ferentz try to ask him that.
That's my favorite thing is if these people who are saying Brian's a dumbass on Twitter, if they saw him in the streets at a restaurant, their first immediate thing would go, "Oh, I think that's Brian Ferentz."
Oh my God. I mean, exactly.
Oh my God. You think I can get an autograph?
The way I would approach it is, Brian, when you were faced with this situation, why can we elaborate as to why you ended up trying to do what you did and what was kind of the goal of accomplishing that?
Yeah.
That's how you get better answers than, as I said, gotcha questions, pointed questions, and almost like, I don't want to use the term I don't want to use a violent precedent behind it, but an aggressive precedent behind a question, right? And the way you speak calmly and you articulate yourself and the way you word things, that's why, again, that first or second year when I came to Iowa, I asked a couple questions. I didn't ask a lot because it's truly a science and almost psychological, right? Because you're really trying to understand people and how they operate. Yeah. And that's how you get the most out of it. So again, any young journalist, don't go in asking those type of questions, or anybody in general. Just go in with an open mind, learn, and then that's how you'll actually become better. Listen more, talk less.
Listen more, talk less. You got two ears, one mouth for a reason. Heard that quote on a podcast I listened to yesterday. David Eickholt, everybody. He's gonna get some more pictures taken of him so that we can fucking make some good thumbnails and not ones from 2014. Thank you so much for joining me for these 83 minutes. This was
man, I got you. It was a blast for sure.
And a throwback thank you to a few weeks ago when you saved me with the 20 minutes that you gave me there too. So
may or may not have had a couple of beers in that.
Oh, that was fantastic. That you were rolling. That's episode 336. I think you're going to find it there. And it was a juicy, thick one. Pause. And that's how we're going to leave this one in true Washed Up Walk-Ons fashion. Thank you guys for listening. We will be back again on Thursday. Until then, peace.